Fantastic. All right, here's what you have to do. The Dillard article itself, you want to number each sentence at the period. Some boys taught me to play football, period. Sentence 1. This was a fine sport, period. Sentence 2. You thought up a new strategy for every play and whispered it to others. 3, all the way up to 11. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, and then in your notebook somewhere, write down the numbers 1 to 11. You don't need to put multiple lines between each number. I'm going to do mine in 2 columns just because my smart board is short. You can just have one big list, 1 to 11. 6, 7. Computer's fine too. Just somewhere that you can reference back to. All right, last week we spoke and we went through how Dillard's voice came through in her composition, and then we started to touch on some of those questions that demanded some more critical thinking skills. Today, we just want to go on a real deep dive and look at Dillard at the sentence level and analyze Dillard's introduction, which is what this is, this first paragraph effectively is. So we want to figure out what is the function of each sentence and how does each subsequent sentence relate back to the sentence prior. Tomorrow, you are going to have to write an 11-sentence composition in which you mirror Dillard's style and sentence structure exactly. So that is what this is for. So right here, you're going to keep track of what each sentence is about and how it relates back to the sentence before it. And over here, we're just going to be reading and talking about stuff. So sentence number 1, don't overthink it. What is Dillard doing in sentence number 1? She is simply putting forward an idea. What is that idea?
Some boys taught me football.
She learned how to play a thing, right? So that's so for sentence 1, the function of the sentence is to communicate that she learned how to do something. That's what you would want to write down next to number 1. So in your first sentence that you're going to write for tomorrow, you're going to write a sentence in which you communicate who told you how to do a thing. Some boys taught me how to play football. My mom taught me how to skin a deer. My dad taught me how to go fishing. My friends taught me how to steal a car. Whatever. Somebody teaching you how to do something. Now, next sentence. This was a fine sport. Okay? What is the purpose of sentence 2?
To describe sentence 1?
To describe the thing you learned in sentence 1. Exactly. So sentence 2, you want to eval thing from sentence 1 as positive or negative. Now, Dillard said, what about football? It's a fine sport. Can you say that, my dad taught me how to go fishing. I haven't hated anything more since then. Would that be the same thing as Dillard? My first 2 sentences?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we're mapping it out. Okay. Sentence number 3. You thought up new strategy for every play and whispered it to others. Now, somebody other than Bemis, what is sentence 3 doing? Explaining the thing mentioned in sentence 1. Okay, so sentence 3 is giving you something you do from the thing you talked about sentence 1. So you explain thing from sentence 1. Number 4 is going to be a little tricky. You went for a pass fooling everyone. Now, this sentence has 2 connections.
It connects to the explanation and it expands on it?
I mean, you're right. You're right. You're knocking on the door. 1, 2, 3. What is the first sentence that sentence 4 connects to? It connects back to sentence 1 in that it's giving you more information about what's going on with that thing we mentioned. What other sentence is sentence number 4 connecting to? 1, 2, or 3? Yeah, 50-50 chance. You might have to have played football to be able to answer this question. You think of a strategy, and then what do you do after you think of that strategy? You go out for a pass, right? Okay, so sentence 4 connects back to 1 because we're given more information, and we're expanding on that 3 thing that you mentioned at 3. So more info from sentence 1 and expand on sentence 3. Sentence number 5. Best, you got to throw yourself mightily at someone's running legs. What is the purpose of sentence 5? Somebody other than Ridley or Lambert. Kai?
Doesn't that connect with sentence 4, giving you a little more context?
No, this is a completely different thing from sentence 4. Sentence 4 is about how you're fooling everyone when you're running out for a pass. Sentence 5 is that you're hitting somebody's knees. What'd you say? Yeah, you shot.
Maybe explains what they like about the sport.
It's not maybe.
It does.
It explains what they like
About
best about the thing mentioned in sentence 1. Okay, so this isn't just another thing, right? This is not just a thing that we enjoy. This is what? The best thing, right? Could you also do the worst thing if you're writing your own thing? Yes. Okay, so sentence 5 is either the best or worst part of thing mentioned in sentence 1. So if you think about 3, that kind of comes back to 1. 4 goes back to 3 and goes back to 1. 5 is coming all the way back to 1 again, and we're skipping this jam right here. Just as we think about how these sentences are related to one another. Now, sentence number 6. Okay, so best you got to throw yourself mightily at someone's legs. Either you brought him down or you hit the ground flat on your chin with your arms empty before you. Which sentence, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, does sentence number 6 have the strongest connection to? 5, right? Great. Okay, so 6 is coming back to 5. And what is 6 relationship with 5? If 5 is telling you about the best part of the thing, 6 is going to do what about that best part of the thing? Explains it in what type of relationship? There's a fancy word in there that's a fanboy. Or it's giving you an either or an or. So I talk about this thing, and then I need to do an either or type jam. So the best part about football is that you throw yourself at somebody's legs. That's the best part. Either you succeed or you fail. You brought him down flat on the ground, you succeed, or you hit the ground flat with your arms empty before you. So you're to succeed or fail. Now, let's consider this with baking for a second. Somebody taught me how to bake. It was it was a fine hobby. You mix flour and eggs. You put things inside of ovens. Best you got to eat cookies, or best cookies came out of the oven. Period. Okay, now I need to do an either or where there's a success or a failure. What would be a nice either or in my cookies example? Either your cookies were burnt or they were delicious. And even if they were burnt, you can put them in some milk and soften them up. And some people say that's even better than a perfectly baked cookie. All right. It was all or nothing. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Sentence number 7 has the strongest relationship with 6. Why is it not 5?
Because it's 6 is either or.
Right. Either or. And then this is like rephrasing the either or in simpler terms. Right? So for sentence number 7, okay, and we're going to change sentence number 6. It's an either or, and this needs to be complicated or detailed. Number 7 rephrases 6 simply. Does that make sense? Okay. Whew. Going on to 8. If you hesitated in fear, you would miss and get hurt. You would take a hard fall while the kid got away, or you would get kicked in the face while the kid got away. Okay, sentence number 8 is a fun one. Sentence number 8 is playing around with which one most closely. There's 2 possible answers.
6.
Or
5.
nope. Sentence number 8 is most closely related to which 2 possible sentences? One of them 6. The other one is somebody other than Bemis, other than Larkowski, other than Linden. 7, right? Because 7 is pretty much rephrasing 6. So if 6 is a possible answer, 7 is a possible answer. Now, what part of 6 is sentence number 8 talking about? Or what part of sentence 7 is sentence 8 talking about? The or nothing. Yes, it was all or nothing. And so then sentence number 8 talks about the negative, right? So now we need to expand on the negative. So we've articulated it's either or, either you succeed or you fail. We've kind of simplified it. Now we talk about the negative. Now, this one's tricky. So we got to complicate the negative. Now, look at this sentence structure and just appreciate it because you are going to have to model this in your own writing. It starts off with the word if. So because it starts with the word if, you know what's coming up. A cause effect, right? An intro phrase comma. If is that trigger word. And lo and behold, if cause effect, you would miss and get hurt. Okay, and then colon. Now, because there's a colon, you know what's going to happen. Colons do what happens after a colon? We talk about the stuff that happened before the colon. So since we have a colon, we know we're going to modify what happened before the colon. What just happened? You would miss and get hurt. So we know that this is going to talk about what? Getting hurt. Because we have a colon, we know something's going to happen about us getting hurt. Lo and behold, you would take a hard fall and the kid got away. Okay, so that's how you got hurt. You took a hard fall. Or, and now we got a coordinating conjunction. This is another way in which you would get hurt. Does that make sense? Because you have the word or, you know that this is another way hurt's going to happen. You would be kicked in the face while the kid got away. So when you're writing this sentence where you're complicating it, you have to go intro phrase, and then you have to go into a colon, and then you got to get a comma, coordinating conjunction, fanboy, or. Hoot nanny. That's going to be a dooze. But exciting stuff. Right? Sentences are a blast. Oh my gosh. Dillard just pushes the pedal to the metal with sentence 9. Look at this, 3 lines. But if you flung yourself wholeheartedly at the back of his knees, if you gathered and joined body and soul and pointed them and diving fearlessly, then you likely wouldn't get hurt and you would stop the ball. Which sentence does number 9 most closely relate to? What? Nah.
6.
What about 6?
The positive.
Now we're talking about the positive from 6. So whereas number 8 talked about the negative from 6 or 7, number 9 is going to complicate or talk about the positive from 6 or 7. And let's take a gander at this. Dillard, professional writer that she is busting out something that we haven't even talked about. You see the word if in the beginning of the sentence. Now, because there's an if, you know what's going to happen. What type of comma is needed? An intro phrase, right? And because it's an if, we also know what kind of relationship exists. Cause and effect, right? Do we see any commas here? No, we do not. We see these guys, these dashes, okay? Now, what is going on inside of this dash? So think about this sentence. So we're just thinking about sentence 9. But if you flung yourself wholeheartedly at the back of the knees, if you gathered and joined body and soul and pointed them and diving fearlessly. It's a non-positive, right? What's going on in this bracket is describing what happened just before it, right? If you dive at his knees, and then it kind of makes it more complicated. Now, these dashes, therefore, are functioning as mega noun appositive / intro phrase commas. Okay, because my appositive phrase is so long, and because I would need to have a comma and a dash in this moment, or a comma would be functioning as a noun appositive and an intro phrase, you're just going to want to go dash city. Does that make sense? Okay, so you are going to take a crack at using those dashes. So your dash is, you got to start off with your intro phrase, and then you need to have a noun appositive inside that mentions what's happening before, all that sort of fun stuff. That was just the first mod, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we have one more? Perfect. Okay, then likely you wouldn't get hurt and you'd stop the ball. And so we notice a coordinating conjunction there as well. Coordinating conjunction and, so multiple things that happen. Sentence 10, your fate and your team's score depended on your concentration and courage. Now, this one, how does it relate to what's going on up here? Treat sentences 1 through 9 as a whole now. It's not just simply telling you about football and why she liked football anymore. I would say we have a bit of a fancy relationship. Here's a thing I learned how to do. That thing was awesome. Here's what you did. Here's what you did. Here's the best thing that you did. Here's why that thing was best. You either succeeded or you failed. Okay? Your fate, your team score depended on your concentration and courage. Is sentence 9 talking more about sentence 1 and 2 and 3, or is it talking more, and 4, or is it talking more about 5 through 9?
Sentence 9 or 10?
Oh, sentence 10. Is sentence 10 more closely tied to this batch or to this batch? This one? How so?
Because we talk about how like your team fate is on you, and then talk about teamwork.
Yeah, you're thinking of a strategy, you're whispering it, and you're doing it. This one's all about success and failure, though, right? You either did that thing or you didn't do that thing. Okay, so it's more closely tied to 5 through 9. So we spent all this time talking about stuff, and then sentence 10 tells you big picture, what are the consequences of that stuff? So you either do it or you don't do it, right? And now here's what happens if you do it or you don't do it. Does that make sense? Okay, so for over here, we would put down consequences. Or you can kind of think about it, cause effect of what's happening in sentences 5 through 9. And then I'll let you figure out how to negotiate sentence 11 for whatever you do. I mean, Dillard's obviously playing around with gender roles, right? Because that's a big part of what's going on in this essay. The fact that she is a girl surrounded by boys, she loved this traditionally boy thing that gave her vigor. She's sad that that thing never happened to her again. You know, if you're not writing about boys and girls, then you're going to have something else going on down here. Nothing blank did could compare to it. So if you're writing about baking, you could say like nothing that involved a gun could compare to it. If you're writing about shooting a deer, you could say nothing that involves a sewing machine could compare to it. Does that make sense? Now, for tomorrow, you need to pick a topic and write 11 sentences that flow together in this way about said topic. Before you leave today, at the very least, you need to have your topic identified. The most exciting one from the first class, somebody's writing about making toast. So that's exciting because it's something that's very plain and boring, but you're going to write about it in this complicated, interesting way. You know, that's fun. Some people are writing about soccer or fishing or hunting, you know, kind of like more traditional things. You can go anywhere you want to go with it, but you have to have this created for tomorrow. Now, before I give you time to work, this is Dillard's introduction, right? Now, how does this explanation of football relate to the rest of Dillard's story? How do you see these ideas that she mentions in here as present throughout? Bemis?
Oh, it's just
Yes. Okay. What happens in Dillard's story?
A lot of chasing.
A lot of chasing. She gets caught. What does she like about the chasing?
It's thrilling.
It's thrilling.
It's challenging.
Challenging her, right? She has to put her all into it. Do you see any of those ideas as mentioned in this introduction? What does she like about football?
Does the same thing.
Same thing. You have to put your all into football. There is great success or great failure, and it's a very physical thing. You know, so this isn't just a fun anecdote about football.
Sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
I was asking you a question, Siri. Shut your face, your digital face. This isn't just a great anecdote, hilarious anecdote about football. The content in here and the way in which she writes about it mirrors what happens later in the story. This is also kind of like a low-key example of the first way in which I want you to start thinking about introductions. Right now, you just know introduction is like hook, roadmap, thesis, get our attention with a question, and then end with a thesis statement, topic, sentence, all that sort of jazz. This is very different than that, but it's still very effective. There are many different ways to go about engaging the reader in your writing. There are many different ways in which you can go about introducing what it is you're talking about. Dillard has chosen to go about it by writing elaborately about a comparison. Here's something, I'm going to write about this something, and what's happening in this is going to mirror what happens later. You just don't know it yet. So you have the rest of the class to start your craft, and I'll be over here to answer any of your questions. So again, to be clear, write your 11 sentences for tomorrow.